There are a lot of bad intersections around the US, but we're going to look at what makes these 4 so bad and how they could be changed to be either safer, more efficient, or both. We'll start at this shopping center in Newport, Kentucky, specifically this part of the road, which is technically several intersections, but we'll look at the whole thing. The big problem here is that there are a lot of driveways and access points for businesses, and as a result, it makes it really chaotic. Especially this intersection. This is a Chick-fil-A, which if you're familiar with, are notorious for drawing in tons of traffic and long drive-thrus. And this Chick-fil-A is arguably the main driver in some of the issues going on here. People going to this Chick-fil-A have 2 options, either a right turn from this road or right or left from this road here. And people leaving this Chick-fil-A can either turn right out of here or both right and left out of here. And this left turn causes a lot of issues, because in addition to this turn, there are 7 other turning opportunities in this area, and this one just happens to be in the middle, crossing through it all. On top of that, there's this main intersection here with a traffic signal, meaning that traffic just waiting at this light gets backed up into all of this. Add in the fact that people try to be nice and let others through ends up meaning that cars like this get stuck in the middle because they couldn't see the other side, and you end up with a situation full of confused drivers making dangerous maneuvers. You might be wondering, why would anyone even try to turn left out of Chick-fil-A? Well, because it's probably really inconvenient for them if they don't. For anyone needing to go this way, this is the only option that really makes any sense. If they use the other exit, they can only turn right here, which makes them continue down this road, which goes the total opposite way. And if they just turned right at this exit instead, they aren't allowed to U-turn at this light either, meaning they have to continue down this road. Again, totally different direction. So for someone trying to get from Chick-fil-A to Target, which is probably pretty common, without doing a left turn out of here, they'd either have to turn around in a parking lot or hop on the freeway and do a massive loop around. This main intersection is also a hot spot for crashes. The entire thing is on a curve, and it's an intersection where this road transitions from being a divided setup to access the highway ramps into a street with businesses, meaning speeds coming into this intersection can be significantly higher than the speed limit of 35 miles per hour. The 3 lanes coming into it are highway width lanes, signaling to drivers it's a high-speed road. Plus, this intersection is at the bottom of a hill, adding to the speed even more. And back in the other direction, this intersection is a multi-lane 4-way stop that feeds directly into a parking lot. As you can imagine, this leads to its own set of confusion, as a lot of drivers even get confused by simple 1-lane 4-way stops. This leaves us with a small stretch of road that could use a lot of fixes. And we'll start with fixing this intersection, because it'll help us fix the rest actually. This is a perfect candidate to turn into a simple 1-lane roundabout. The leg that goes into the parking lot could also be extended a little further to make things more orderly too. It would also add crosswalks where there are none right now, and there could be a sidewalk that runs along this road, which is also not there right now. Moving further down, we're going to reconfigure this intersection too. We'll change it to eliminate left turns out of here, which gets rid of another potential conflict, and instead traffic needing to go that way can easily turn around at the roundabout. Now let's look at the Chick-fil-A intersection we started with. The solution for this would actually be pretty simple. Don't allow left turns in or out of Chick-fil-A. We do this with a median that would only allow for left turns into the Target parking lot. But that still leaves us with the accessibility problem, which we could solve with yet another roundabout at this main intersection. This roundabout would allow people to U-turn if needed, plus it would keep traffic moving and act as a good gateway to this area to be a clear transition from the larger divided road into the street with businesses, slowing everyone down in the process and hopefully improving safety. The approach coming into the roundabout would be reduced to 2 lanes instead of 4, and would feature this gentle curve, which is common before roundabouts to slow traffic down before they enter the roundabout. You might be wondering why this roundabout isn't really, well, round. It's because some directions have more lanes than others. For example, this left turn lane is currently a very popular movement through this intersection, so it has 2 lanes through the roundabout. Typically, the fewer lanes in a roundabout, the safer it is, but depending on traffic counts, this roundabout could need more lanes. For example, if there's a lot of traffic making this movement, it would delay traffic here trying to go straight, and an additional lane may help ease that delay. On the other hand, if there are plenty of gaps in traffic, it would allow this 1 lane to flow freely and likely function with little delay. Many roundabouts can actually function better than traditional intersections without needing as many lanes. While a traditional intersection might need 3 lanes to hold all the stop traffic at a light, 1 lane may work just fine in a roundabout due to the near constant flow of traffic. This entire redesign would also add sidewalks on both sides of the road compared to just one as it is right now, and would also include mid-block crosswalks. The current setup isn't very pedestrian friendly at all, and while big shopping centers like these are never really great places for pedestrians anyway, this new design would at least be an improvement from what the current setup is. Overall, this design would eliminate many of the confusing and dangerous left turns going on, improve pedestrian connectivity, and add roundabouts that would improve traffic flow and fuel efficiency, allowing drivers to save money on gas. But until then, there's a different way to earn money on gas, no roundabouts required, with the free Upside app, which is the sponsor of this video. To show you how it works, I actually needed to get gas, so I used the Upside app to find a gas station. With Upside, you can see all of these different offers that allow you to earn cash back for free just by filling up your gas tank at those gas stations. Once you find a gas station that works for you, claim the offer, follow the instructions in the app, fill up as usual, and if you're like me, start doing the math in your head as you watch the pump to see how much you're earning. It's actually pretty crazy how fast it adds up, especially given this is a free app that lets you earn on something you'd be doing anyway, and it's actual cash back too, not a confusing reward or point system. You can use it to get gift cards or transfer directly into your bank account. There are over 100,000 gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants available on the app, so it's not hard to find a place you can start earning near you. Top Upside earners are making as much as $300 a month. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside and use the code Streetcraft to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas, or scan the QR code here to claim this offer. And remember, it's a free app, so all you have to do is download Upside and begin earning today. The next intersection is actually pretty simple, but due to being on a high-speed highway, it's incredibly dangerous. And when crashes have occurred here, the high speeds of the vehicles have made them deadly. The main problem here is, once again, left-turning traffic, both here and here. These left turns both happen in this space, and this small area has high-speed traffic zooming by on both sides. Not to mention that the turning cars also have to watch out for the cars turning in the other direction. However, this kind of intersection is found in a lot of rural America, and it's the result of trying to build a road that can function as a freeway, but without having to spend money on building an entire grade-separated interchange with entrance and exit ramps. An interchange is a much better solution because it physically divides any intersecting traffic and gives drivers dedicated space to speed up to merge and slow down to exit, all while through traffic can continue driving without having to worry about cars turning out in front of them. An interchange would be ideal here, but there is another solution that could help improve what's currently going on here while still keeping costs low and allowing it to function as a high-speed highway that doesn't interrupt the flow of through traffic. We'll start with changing the middle part here to only allow for left turns from this direction. So while this traffic is still unfortunately turning in front of high-speed oncoming traffic, they don't have to worry about anyone else other than the oncoming traffic. However, that means that all traffic coming from this road has to turn right. But obviously not everyone wants to turn right, so we'll build a U-turn lane a little further down the road so people can go in the other direction. Since this turn is pretty tight, it would likely need some extra pavement here to accommodate the larger turning radius of larger vehicles. And that's about it actually. It might seem inconvenient to have to turn around, but it allows drivers to focus on this direction of traffic first, make sure it's clear, then proceed into the U-turn lane, focus on that direction of traffic, and proceed on their way when clear. It separates all turning movements into different physical locations, rather than all in one small spot like it is right now. And the data has shown this actually improves safety. This setup is a variation of a restricted crossing U-turn, and they've been shown to have a 63% reduction in fatal and injury crashes when compared to a traditional unsignalized intersection like the current setup. It was found that for the cost of one regular interchange, 10 to 20 of these intersections can be built, and they can usually be built in the existing right-of-way and require a much shorter construction timeline. This setup can also be more efficient, since drivers, particularly truck drivers, don't have to wait for long enough gaps in traffic from both directions to safely turn left. So while it may not be the perfect solution, for places with limited budgets, it can still make a real impact. This roundabout, if we want to call it that, has a live stream that occasionally captures incidents like this one, where a driver decided to turn left into the roundabout, which in the US is not the way you're supposed to go. However, I don't totally blame the driver here, because after looking at the intersection, it's clear this is not your average roundabout. Most roundabouts don't have lanes that are 47 feet wide, and most roundabouts don't have crosswalks that cut right through the middle, but this one does. Most roundabouts also have curbs and signs in the middle that direct traffic in the correct direction, but this one also has neither. This roundabout dates back to at least 1938 and was originally built as a way to control traffic for these 5 roads feeding into it. However, roundabout design has come a long way since then, and we don't build roundabouts like this anymore. There's nothing necessarily wrong with having a roundabout here. In fact, it seems to handle the traffic flow pretty well. However, it could be modernized to today's standards. One of the first things would be adding splitter islands to channel entering and exiting traffic into the correct direction. Making the center island larger too would reduce the width of the travel lane in this roundabout, making it clear this is just a one-lane roundabout. Crosswalks could also be placed in the correct spot, which is across the entrances and exits of the roundabout like this. This would still keep the same functionality, but bring this up to today's design standards, and likely reduce wrong-way driving and clarify where to yield. However, the city doesn't seem too interested in changing it anytime soon, as a few months ago they just repaved the entire thing and kept it exactly the same as it's existed for years. With a lot of the roads in the US, it's clear that the focus is usually on moving vehicles, making pedestrians and cyclists an afterthought. But sometimes it seems like the engineers are deliberately trying to get people killed. This bike lane is located on a large divided through road that has 2 cloverleaf ramps to enter and exit a highway. The problem is, this bike lane runs directly through the area where cars have to weave between entering and exiting traffic. If you've ever driven through a cloverleaf interchange, you know the feeling of trying to find a gap to either enter or exit this lane. And the last thing on your mind is probably checking to make sure there aren't cyclists in the bike lane. Yet this bike lane runs right down the middle of these 2 lanes. This brings up an interesting set of ethical questions, because clearly this design is incredibly dangerous. It doesn't take being a traffic engineer to see what could go wrong here. However, an actual traffic engineer designed this bike lane at some point, it went through an approval process, and crews were sent out to paint the road green. But should it have? There's no license requirement to ride a bike, and people of all ages and abilities use bikes, and this is the type of infrastructure provided for those people. How would you feel if a child on their bike decided to use this bike lane? Your answer should be terrified, and yet this exists. Is it better to build terrible infrastructure and present it as a viable transportation option than to not provide that option at all, knowing the threat it poses? If there were shark-infested waters, would it be better to set up a swimming area than to not have a swimming area at all? Where did common sense get lost in the governmental process of building this road? And what does that say about the system in which our roads are designed that something like this is considered acceptable enough to be built? However, this interchange is in the process of being modified. Instead of these 2 loop ramps to enter and exit the highway, they're building 2 separate bridges as part of a $145 million construction project. This bridge will serve as the entrance ramp, and this bridge will be the exit ramp. Along with the new bridges, the interchange will be reconfigured to a traditional interchange without the loop ramps. The plans provided by the Florida Department of Transportation upon request only show a low-resolution configuration for vehicle lanes, so it's still not known what the plan for accommodating pedestrians and cyclists will be here. But if it's anything like the 2 nearby interchanges they recently completed, it'll probably look something like those, which I go into depth as to what's wrong with this one despite being brand new in this next video.